Yeah, we're going to go ahead and lose those 35 pounds. We're going to schedule more time to read books. We're going to buy a new house, a new car, a new watch, all of the good things. But I have never in my entire life heard someone say that they're going to make a plan for the year of heartbreaks that they're about to have. Have you?
Love is a high-risk behavior.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first installment of season 2 of the podcast, High Risk for Heartbreak. I am your host, Christina, and I am so glad you decided to join me here today. Welcome to everyone who is just discovering this channel and discovering this podcast. I am in the second season now, as you guys know, and man, we did some serious excavating last season, my very first season of hosting this podcast. We did excavating, we were doing foundational laying. It was very much about what is heartbreak? What do we need to know about the psychology of it? What do we need to know about the biology of it? What do we need to know about the spirituality of it? And how do we move through it? One of the things that I have been very honest and open about is that I have personally suffered within the last, it's almost been 2 years, a very personal heartbreak to myself. And that was the catalyst for launching off this podcast, because I realized that I'm not the only one out here suffering and that people need help and they want answers and they want to share their stories. And so while I am not a relationship coach, I am not a counselor, I'm not a guru, a matchmaker, or any of those things, what I am is an expert in heartbreak, because I've experienced quite a few of them, and not just romantic relational heartbreak. So I do want you guys to know that this podcast is for all styles of relational heartbreak, be it familial, it could be romantic, it could be friendship, it could be mentorship, business partnership, right? We are going to discuss an array of topics that will be able to cover and touch on all of those different styles. But today we are going to get into really what it's like to be in the season of heartbreak and how to honor that season. This first episode, I really wanted to make sure that we'll be setting the foundation and kind of just laying or earmarking for the rest of the season, which I'm actually really excited about, you guys. I'm super excited. Some of these topics that we're going to be getting into, oh boy, I think a lot of it will be able to resonate with you. And I think that you guys are going to find a bevy of helpful tips. We're going to be doing a lot of collaborations, and you're going to see some fun stuff on here as well, which I'm very excited about around the holiday season. So stick with me here. It's not going to be as boring, I think, as season 1, although I didn't find season 1 boring, but I know a lot of the stuff that we were talking about was very educational and explanatory in that kind of manner. I think now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. We're going to start to see some of these topics, tap into some of the stuff that you're seeing on social media, and hopefully I will be able to contribute some gems to the conversation. So let's talk about how to honor your heartbreak. Now, I know that sounds like a very strange thing, honoring your heartbreak, like who would actually want to honor someone breaking their heart, or honor being in this place and giving applaud and a lot, I guess, to someone hurting you. And it's really not about that. But what I do think it is about is understanding that heartbreak is seasonal. It is not all of our lives, although we will encounter heartbreaks all of our lives. It's seasonal. And we don't often think of heartbreak and healing as a recurring thing, right? Although we know it is, we don't think about it as recurring seasons in our lives. And it could be maybe the infrequency of heartbreak and its unpredictability that leads us to believe that the last time was the last time. And so we don't need to make plans for another time of heartbreak. But in life, we make plans for the things that we care about, right? We make plans for the things that we dream about. We make plans for the things that we want to protect ourselves from and prepare ourselves for. So somehow we have left relational heartbreak off of our yearly to-do list when we're making our to-do lists and we're making our goal sheets and we're doing our vision boards. We have left our heartbreak plan off of the list. And so, yeah, we're going to go ahead and lose those 35 pounds. We're going to schedule more time to read books. We're going to buy a new house, a new car, a new watch, all of the good things. But I have never in my entire life heard someone say that they're going to make a plan for the year of heartbreaks that they're about to have. Have you? I must emphasize that heartbreak does not need to be on the scale of total destruction. I think a lot of people, when they think about heartbreak, that's how they consider it, is like, oh my gosh, it has to be the most traumatic thing that I've encountered in my life. It's not always the theatrics and the dramatics, right? Heartbreak, as we have learned in the last season, for those of you who are here, is that it can start small. It can be those little small letdowns, those little small paper cuts from our loved ones, and the countless upsets without resolution that bring us to this moment of breaking. We arrive at this moment that we aren't ready for. And how could you be, honestly? How can you prepare for heartbreak? We often don't do that, right? But we also don't have a plan, right? We don't have a plan to get ourselves out of the heartbreak. We don't have a vision for what life looks like after a sudden upset that money and massages and masking can't fix. And when this happens, what happens to us is we often view our suffering as eternal. At least I know for me, right? That last heartbreak was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be eternally suffering for the rest of my life from this pain that I feel. It almost felt like I couldn't go on. That pain was traveling with me day to day. And the same may be for you. All you can think about and be in is today. So it feels like forever. But what we don't understand is that seasons only house a finite number of days. I'm noticing now I've got a little bit of a stuffy nose. The seasons are beginning to shift, right? We're coming out of summer, going into fall, which I'm super excited about. The air is changing. It's becoming more crisp, less humidity. The wind is blowing. The leaves are changing and falling off the trees, and my allergies are kicking up, right? That's how I know the seasons are changing. The seasons house a finite number of days, and then they change. So today, let's talk about honoring the season of heartbreak. Let's talk about how to be in the thick of it and be okay with not being anywhere else. So let's relate. The word says, the Lord God hath given me the tongue of the learned, that I should know how to speak a word in season to him that is weary. I'm going to speak a word to those that are in a season of weariness because of heartbreak. When I encountered my last major heartbreak, it was the wisdom in the in-season words of my family and my friends that spoke to me when I was weary. I needed them. It was my friends that prayed for me and spoke life into my lifeless parts, knowing that it would take time to germinate and reveal itself, but the words were in step with my heartbreak needs. The thing about a great support group is that they can address your woundedness with wisdom, because they're outside of your woundedness. They can address it with love and kindness, helping you to the end of your season. They can even egg you along in a very healthy way, helping to soften the landing into the reality that things are no longer as they were. And that is okay, because things are as they are. Your comforters and your closest companions should be a part of your heartbreak plan. I stand 10 toes down in saying this, that God created us for community. We are made to be in relationship with others. And in fact, it is vital. Social psychologists state that time and time again, researchers have demonstrated that we are social creatures and we need others to survive. But not only that, to thrive. We need others to survive and thrive at our survival. Close relationships are the psychological equivalent of food and water. Food and water are close relationships. So think about how much we actually need them. These relationships are necessary for our survival. Our relationships are always in season with God's plan, and we need to manage them well so that they manage us well in the midst of our need, right? Think about all of the friends that have gone through heartbreaks that you have been there for, right? Showing up for those friends helps them show up for you. They remember you being there in the time of their need, so they will show up for you. So we have to make sure we manage and we steward our relationships properly because they're important. They're reciprocal. The first step in your plan to honor your season of heartbreak is to get your support system in order. That is hands down, there's nothing else that you need to do other than making sure that the friends that you have, that you call close friends, and the family that you can go to that is near you, that they are your go-to point people. Hey, I'm experiencing something I need to vent. After you've gone to God and you've prayed about it, I need to come to you and I need to talk to you about this. Tell me what you think about this. Give me your advice. Give me your thoughts, right? And consider all of the things that they're saying, though it may not be a truth for you. Consider it all. These people should not only be able to just entertain you in conversation and connection when all is well in life, but they should be able to speak words of wisdom to you when you are weary. Do they exhort you? Do they lift you up? Can you cover them? Do they cover you in spiritual and physical need? I will never forget when I was going through this heartbreak. My gosh, when I was moving out, because my ex and I lived together, when I was moving out of the place that we lived together in, my dad told me he had bought this big pot set for us, and it was a really nice pot set that he bought. We had it for a few years, and he said, leave the pots, leave them. And I was like, what am I going to do? I'm leaving almost all my stuff. You know, I was leaving a lot of my things. And what is so amazing about this is I remember going home for Christmas and my dad bought me a new set of pots for my new apartment. Not only were my parents praying for me, not only were they exhorting me and lifting me up, but they were covering me in my physical need. And I don't think you guys understand like how important that actually is. You know, there are people out there suffering on the street, and sometimes all we can do is give them a good and encouraging word. We can't meet the physical need. But we know ourselves, when we get hungry, we get a little hangry. Sometimes the physical need is the first step to getting into this space. But this visceral need needs to be met first. And so I will never forget coming into my new apartment after Christmas, after all of the festivities, and, you know, crying my eyes out and just being so sad that this was going to be a very new reality for me. And I was on my kitchen floor crying over this big box of pots. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but I was so grateful to my parents for providing for my physical need, while it was reminding me that things were all new and that I was going to have to learn to accept this new life that I had and this new place that I had, and, you know, this new wound that I had. My parents were there to not only provide in all the other ways, but my physical needs were met. And I just am so grateful. Are your people quick to listen? This support system that you have around you, your friends and your family, your mentors, your counselors, are they quick to listen? Are they kind? Are they kind? That's one of my top values. Actually, I think it's like top 2, is kindness. It's very important to me that the people that I keep around me are kind, that they're conscientious, they're genuine in their interaction with me. It's just easier for me to sift through their heart posture that way. And it's much easier for me to be able to receive them when they are kind. So are the people around you kind? These are all great ingredients, of course, to look for in your heartbreak support group, but they're not limited to these only that I mentioned, of course. You will be able to make up the things that you value most, and that you need within and without of your relationship. So make sure you do that. Get your support system together. So I want to ask you, how does it feel not knowing when certain things will happen in your life? Now, I can answer that, but I'll let you answer that in your mind. When you think about this question, really, really think, how does it feel to be out of the know? A life that you're living, that you're governing and stewarding every day, that you're keeping yourself alive every day, you're striving to do the best that you can every day. How does it feel not being able to be in control of it all the time? When I think about it, I guess all of my heartbreak moments have arrived without an expiration date. I honestly can't look back and think about one that it was like, yep, I know the date that this is going to end, unless I personally ended it myself. But even with that, I couldn't predict when the pain would be over. I couldn't predict what was next for myself. I couldn't predict that my sensibilities were going to be completely blurred and that I would not be able to predict the ending of this suffering. I remember after this particular heartbreak, waking up every morning, I'd open my eyes and look at the ceiling and be like, no, I thought it was a nightmare. Why isn't this a nightmare? Why am I not waking up from this dream? I was hating my life because it wasn't what I wanted. It had not gone according to my plan. And it's really funny how these very opposing feelings of happiness and sadness are super strong within their season. And what I mean by this is when I was up, I was all the way up, okay? I couldn't imagine ever coming down, as if Newton's law of gravity did not even pertain to me. I was up. And when I came down, up was unimaginable, simply because I didn't know the season I didn't know the season, and I definitely did not have a plan for it. I'm going to read a scripture to you. Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? And he said unto them, it is not for you to know the times of the seasons, which the Father hath put in his own power. Accepting that fact has been very hard for me. I don't know how it is for you, knowing that it is not for me to know the seasons. Accepting that has been really hard for me. Okay. That's pretty much the bulk of life though, right? My life and yours. It's not for us to know the times and the seasons. We have these great visions and these dreams, and perhaps many of them have come to be, but there's also a great many of them that I've had to allow to wash down the drain. And I'm sure you have as well. And then what do? We accept the reality that comes in its place. And suddenly we're in this season that we didn't want to be in. The second part of that scripture says the Father hath put it in his own power. And what does that actually mean? I want you guys to stick with me for a moment. I'm going to deviate. The success of all parts of nature is tailored to its seasons: winter, spring, summer, fall. Vegetation and wildlife in all of creation obeys these laws of nature, which house these seasons. Because of this, we can find contentment in God's established order. Why? Because it's predictable. We have these seasons every single year. It doesn't matter what part of the earth you live in. Yes, they may look a little different The climate may look a little, climactic is not the word. The climate may look a little different, but the seasons happen in all places upon this earth, and they're all predictable. We know what to expect. Though most times, even though we know the seasons, we cannot find contentment in them. We wish for winter in the Diablos of summer. I know I was. Okay. This summer was very hot. And then after Christmas and the New Year celebrations have ceased, we're ready to cruise the Caribbean. Okay. Because it's cold and it's time to warm it up a little bit. Right. I know I get a little anxious around March, like late February, March after my birthday. I'm like, okay, I need to see spring. I need to see flowers, Lord. I need to see the bees buzzing around. And it's very hard to find contentment within that season. But seriously, often year after year, we are not content in season. We are resistant of what the season has to offer, as if it's ever been different in our existence. It's so funny how we do that. And that's how we treat heartbreak. Like a new discovery year after year with no plan to weather it. Think about all of the things that you've desired to accomplish, relationships that you have fought to keep, money that you've set out to make, and all of it is a cute dream. It's beautiful. And now it's a distant memory. And then there you are, left to weather the storm of that season of heartbreak, and you don't have an umbrella. You've been here before, but you don't have rain boots. You have to just get wet while in the midst of the storm that you could have been prepared for. Now, I am yet to meet a person who desires to live through seasons of heartbreak and sadness. I've never met him. I've never met the person that says, yes, bring on the heartbreak and bring it on heavy. But we do absolutely encounter seasons, some big and some small, every year of our lives. We are resistant to the seasons as if they have ever been different. Those seasons equate to the success of what it means to be a human being, though. Without the sadness, there is no joy. Without the normal, there is no abnormal. We don't always know why God allows certain heartbreaks to occur in our lives, both big and small. But if we use the wisdom and knowledge about that, we will better understand that heartbreak serves its purpose for our joy. And they just happen in two different seasons, right? Both equally important to our success, but in two different seasons. Wisdom is a shelter. It serves those who have it. To create contentment within a season of heartbreak, it really is important to take knowledge and understanding, and an application of that which equals to wisdom, and navigate the season of contentment with that. Knowledge plus application of it equals wisdom. Lastly, I want to say heartbreak isn't the only thing that happens in season. Healing does too. Her husband Elkanah would say to her, Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons? Eli answered and said to her, go in peace. May God of Israel, the God of Israel, grant you what you have asked of him. So in the course of time, Hannah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Samuel, saying, "Because I asked the Lord for him." This story may hit home for some of you in a current season of heartbreak surrounding your journey of familial expansion. Maybe you're trying to expand your family, you're trying to have a baby. Or you may be relating on a different level to this particular scripture of Hannah being barren and then coming to have a child and thinking of the heartbreak that you are having. Maybe you're trying to birth something great. Maybe you're starting a business or an initiative and it's not been panning out the way that you have planned and the way that you have imagined. And maybe even like Hannah, you feel like her womb closed, the doors have closed on you and your faith has gone from you. And with that, the encouragers around you, right? The encouragers around you, so go in the faith that you have, go in the strength that you have, is important. That support group that I talked about is very important. They will keep you praying. They will keep you faithful when you are weary. Your faith is going to be the very thing that opens the doors that no man would be able to shut. And people may sneer at you. They may not believe in you. They may call you crazy for pursuing this dream, for pursuing the family or the career. The doctors may be saying it's not possible. You may be getting hit with heartbreak left and right, not seeing the fruit of that thing. But remember that all creation obeys the natural order that God has put in place. Before a tree's shade is enjoyed, it first grows down deep into the root, into the soil, creating a root system. I don't know if you guys understand that. These trees that we see every day, we take for granted every day, and we cut down every day. My gosh, the amount of trees that are cut down every day, it's unbelievable. What it takes to go from a seed to a tree, the rooting down into the soil, digging deep so that it knows it can grow up nice and big and strong. It takes years before we see the proof of that seed that is planted in that soil. Years. It takes years of sunshine and rain and faith. I was thinking about planting an apple tree. Don't ask me why. I live in an apartment, but one day I'm going to plant an apple tree. Okay. And I was like, let me see. What is the germination period for an apple tree? 10 years. 10 years? You mean it'll be 10 years before I get an apple from this seed? 10 years. What faith it must have to watch a tree root down and not see the fruit of it or be able to enjoy the fruit of it for 10 years. But in season, that tree will reveal itself because of the faith of the planter, because of the watering, the speaking over that seed, encouraging, exhorting that seed, allowing it adequate sunshine and keeping the soil optimal. We are no different than that tree as we are navigating our healing season. We need appropriate faith practices that tend to us so that we can reroot and reveal our newly healed self in due season. So you're saying, Christina, great. I love it. This sounds amazing. How? The way I personally found contentment with my heartbreak was through two things. Firstly, forgiveness. I know you don't want to hear it. I know. You're like, how? You want me to forgive them? But they hurt me. They should be apologizing. They should be groveling. They should be feeling guilty for the rest of their days. Forgiveness absolves you of the responsibility of carrying that heartbreak with you. It absolves you from that responsibility. Yes, we forgive these people because that's what we are called to do, and it's not always easy. But we have to forgive. We have to get to a place where we say, you know what? You're human and you messed up. I mess up too. Maybe I don't mess up to this magnitude or in this type of way, but I mess up too. It doesn't mean you need to keep them in your life, right? That's a whole other story, but you definitely need to forgive. And secondly, it's really, really important that you have a very gradual acceptance that despite your delusions, the past won't change. This was really hard for me. Accept that the past cannot change. The present is already past and the future is now. Think about that. The past cannot change. The present, it's already past. And the future is now. I can only be in this present season. So I have to lean into that heartbreak in its season. If not, I will miss the seeds that are being planted in that season, even through my heartbreak. Because I'm trying to be somewhere else and I'm not allowing myself to deal with the heartbreak fully. Forgive them. Accept the truth in Jesus' name. A few of my practices, this is just 3, but I had many more, that were really helpful to me and intentional for me during my most needy part of my heartbreak season to health season was firstly prayer, speaking to God explicitly. We talked about this. I think it was my friend Brandy and I, when she was on last season, we talked about praying to God explicitly. If you look at some of the prayers and the lamentations of David, he was explicit. Things he talked about. I said, oh, you're going to the Lord like that? Okay. Yes. I mean, God knows our heart and our thoughts anyway, but say them. Say them. Speaking to God explicitly in prayer, I would pray very specifically. It was hard because sometimes I didn't believe the things that I was saying, but I would keep praying them until I did. Speak explicitly to God through prayer about what you're going through and what you want it to be. Leave nothing on the table. He knew my heart and mind, which allowed for refinement of my heart and mind, okay, as I healed along. But being able to speak through that, like writing or whatever your outlet is so helpful, you guys. Prayer. Next, I created a very disciplined schedule for myself. And I know this may not work for everyone. Everybody is not into schedules, okay? Some people are much more spontaneous. I've met a few of those people. Kudos to you guys. What a blessing it must be to be able to live like that. But I plan my days around the clock, okay? I plan my time. I have very little idle time. I even plan my rest. Now, that may not work for you, right? Especially if you get anxiety around tasks. But one thing that has helped me is to know where my time is going. So when I'm off from work, I don't leave myself idle, right? Instead, I make purposeful use of my time, especially when healing from heartbreak, because you could definitely find yourself swirling if you don't. And that leads me to my last thing is I got physical. One of those things that I did with my time is I worked out even more than I already did. We underestimate what money, what food and fitness will do for our mental health. And I know that there are so many other things that do amazing things for our mental health, but let me tell you, getting physical, you guys, going outside and taking a walk will change some things for you. No phone, just you and God and the air. It'll do some things for you. It's not going to be the end all be all, of course, but wow, it really, really helped me to release stress when I was getting on my Pilates and my yoga mat. It helped me to go run on a treadmill or to take my dog out for longer walks than I had been taking him. We walk every day, 20 to 30 minutes, but sometimes I'd go an hour and a half walks with him and I'd cry. I'd cry on my walks. People must have thought I was crazy. Cry, but I was out there releasing. Not just physically getting my heart rate up, sweating a little bit, releasing those toxins from my body, but also spiritually releasing, mentally releasing, right? Get physical. It helped me to focus on moving my body. And I even became so specific in this, which was really funny, that I worked on like heart opening exercises and postures, right? I worked on back bending. That was actually really tough for me because I haven't been as flexible as I usually am recently. I don't know why, I guess because I'm getting older or something, but I really thought about this. I was like, Lord, I'm spending a lot of my days in tears, cuddled up, fetal position, curled in, shoulders are in, hugging into myself, crying into my pillow. Those fetal position night cries were baby, they were everything to me. But when I got on my mat, I needed to open up. I needed to keep my chest high. I needed to bring my shoulders back, allow the vulnerability of exposing my heart, my stomach, my organs, allowing myself to enter into that physical vulnerability was something that tremendously translated to my mind and my heart, my soul heart, right? It translated so well, you guys. I cannot exclaim enough how helpful physicality, working out, getting active is to your mental and emotional wellness. I really had to resist my nature, which wanted me to just go the other way and curl up and be in bed. I had to resist that nature. I had to push through to the other side of my healing. And it really took physicality to aid in doing so. So in closing, I want to say heartbreak is not all that there is, though it is a recurring theme in our lives that we see throughout our lives. The beautiful thing about heartbreak being a recurring theme is that healing is also a recurring theme. It's also a season that we should honor. Healing with a plan in place, like having a support system, accepting the reality of your changed circumstances, and keeping your faith long enough to see the seasons change, is actually up to you. We can elect to help ourselves heal through the ways that I listed above and more, of course, therapy, coaching, all of the other things, hobbies, right? Creating community events, getting around people, traveling. There's so many things that we can do for our healing process, but we definitely need to make a plan. So I encourage you to honor your season of heartbreak and healing by creating a plan. I love you. I want you to get to know that I love you. And I want you to get to this space where you can really love yourself first so that you can then go out and love your neighbor. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this first installment of High Risk for Heartbreak. Until next time.
Why don't you stay a little longer? You like what you like, right? Subscribe to the channel so we can spend a little more time together. And maybe comment your thoughts because I care what you're thinking. Love is the risk and the reward.